Don't you dare, ref. That she got the ball.
Good morning, Tottenham fans worldwide. Rise and shine as it is game day. And despite the inconsistencies, I'm absolutely pumped up for tonight's game as Tottenham travel down to the south coast to take on Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium as we look to restore some consistency in terms of our results. And I know many people say we've got an injury crisis, and rightly so. It's a tough period that we're entering. However, we have to show a little bit of resilience with this injury crisis. We cannot let it derail our campaign. And with a big game against Chelsea on the weekend, a victory here would really set up a mouth-watering tie. So hopefully we can get the job done here. And look, Bournemouth are going to be no pushovers. They're no mugs. Iraola is bringing a good brand of football there, especially at home, high-intensity, pressing football. And 3 of the 5 wins have come at the Vitality Stadium this year. Also beating the likes of Arsenal and Man City down there, and also taking a point off Newcastle. So the Vitality is a bit of a fortress for them, and our backs are up against the wall. But one thing I know, this is where Tottenham Hotspur come out and rise up, just like we did against Man City. Another performance like that would go a long way to easing Spurs fans' concerns. So let's get into it. The lineup that I think Ange Postecoglou is going to select to hopefully take home all 3 points. In goal, it is Fraser Forrester, who is enjoying an extended run in the team and is absolutely thriving, doing much better than expected despite many Spurs fans' concerns. And the 36-year-old delivered a strong performance against Fulham, making 5 crucial saves from inside the box to secure a valuable point, and we will need him to replicate that level of performance here. Also, a word of note, on a tight pitch, his distribution will also need to be sharp and precise. There was one ball against Fulham for Yves Bissouma. He put it 5 or 10 yards to the side of him. You will not get away with that here against Bournemouth. At left back, it will be Destiny Udogie again, who didn't really have an effect on the game last week against Fulham in or out of possession, and he will need to be much more effective in this game here. Postecoglou has indicated that Reguilon could still contribute as well this season if needed, and I would argue with Chelsea approaching this weekend and Udogie having played the second most minutes in the squad, I do think it's likely that he could be substituted at some point with Reguilon entering the fray. At right back, it is the postman Porro, who has not been delivering lately. Of course, he was very poor against Fulham, frequently giving the ball away and looking very vulnerable defensively. However, I don't blame him. He clearly appeared to be fatigued, and he's played the most minutes in this Tottenham squad this season. And tonight he's going to face another tough challenge from the likes of Marcus Tavernier and the overlapping runs of Milos Kerkez as well. So for me, this is a game where Postecoglou needs to trust Jed Spence and give him an opportunity to prove his worth. And that's either from starting or coming off the bench. But Porro simply doesn't have the legs to play 90 minutes here. And then the quick turnaround as well ahead of the Chelsea game this weekend. He needs a rest. So for me, it's about prioritising what game you want him to have more of an impact on. And I'd argue the Chelsea game is the bigger one, despite Bournemouth being a really tough test. But I do think that he will play Pedro Porro yet again, believe it or not. Or the other alternative option is Archie Gray, but he also picked up a knock. How fit is he? Moving into centre-back, and we'll start on the right side. Ange Postecoglou has confirmed that Romero is set to return to training on Friday, which does present him a selection headache ahead of the Chelsea game this weekend. However, it will be Dragusin, who, in my opinion, has steadily improved with the extended run that he's had in the team. And it'll be interesting to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. Has Dragusin done enough to retain his place upon Romero's return? Also, Evan Nilsson, he did win 3 penalties against Wolves last weekend, and he's a very powerful physical presence. And I think it's setting up a clash of 2 physical powerhouses. Hopefully Dragusin comes out on top, because he will need to be at his best to be able to handle Evan Nilsson. And I task the physicality side more on Dragusin, because he's more able for it than someone like Ben Davies. Additionally, in possession, Bournemouth like to press aggressively with a lot of high intensity, so Dragusin will have to move the ball quickly and avoid being caught in possession like he was when he first entered the team. However, fortunately for us Spurs fans, he has shown in recent weeks, especially against Man City, Fulham, Roma, that he can handle that pressure well, and he does possess an excellent long-range pass, which could be key in this matchup here, releasing the likes of Son or Brennan Johnson. And partner him at left-sided centre-back, no surprise here, it is what people are dubbing the Welsh Maldini. And he was absolutely outstanding against Fulham, repeatedly putting his body on the line and positioning himself perfectly to be able to neutralise Fulham's threats, which showcases his experience and his ability to read the game, and is really needed amongst that young backline that is surrounding him right now. And I think he's done an absolute fine job stepping in for Mickey van de Ven. He's performed exceptionally well and to a very high standard, and we will need him to provide that command and presence once again here. Bournemouth will create chances. They are good going forward. Also the same for him with Bournemouth's high intensity press. He will have to look to move that ball quickly and not get caught on it. And from my observation from the Roma game, from the Fulham game, it's been a clear sort of instruction for them centre-backs, for them defenders, not to pass the ball back to Fraser Forrester and put us in further trouble. So they will have to take responsibility. But again, Ben Davies has been absolutely excellent, showcasing composure and precision in possession, and he'll need to maintain that sharpness to ensure he doesn't get caught on the ball in this game. Moving into midfield with the suspended Rodrigo Bentancur, Bissouma will once again take charge of anchoring that Spurs midfield. Now, Justin Kluivert, who plays number 10 for Bournemouth, who will be in and around close proximity of Bissouma, where he likes playing that anchor role, is fresh off a hat-trick against Wolves. And I know it's penalties, however, he will pose a significant threat. The confidence is high, and Bissouma must work hard to neutralise him. For me, it's a simple game for Bissouma. In possession, be sharp on the ball under pressure, as Kluivert is likely to press him aggressively and sort of probably be instructed to sit in and around there as soon as he gets the ball, pounce on him. Additionally, I think it's crucial that Bissouma avoids vacating that position too often. I notice he does that and seems to vacate a lot more than Rodrigo Bentancur, so that he doesn't leave an area open and create gaps for the likes of Kluivert to be able to exploit. So for me, this game will require a very disciplined performance from Yves Bissouma, much like the one he delivered against Man City. So he's capable. Hopefully he can do the same here. Now, to help partner Bissouma and whoever else I pick in midfield, it will be Papa Maddison, who has actually started the last 4 games on the trot, highlighting Postecoglou's trust in his abilities. For me, Papa Maddison's work rate and defensive contributions are crucial, especially in away matches where hard work is essential to securing a result. Now, Bournemouth will press aggressively and are tidy in possession, making Sarr's attributes vital for disrupting their play and helping Spurs gain control in the engine room. Now, last week against Fulham, he exerted a lot of energy out of possession, getting around trying to disrupt them as much as he could. In possession, especially on the counter-attack, left wanting, and will have to improve that side of his game here. We will have to be clinical in possession. Now, to complete the midfield, I've been tossing and turning over this one. However, I do think we could see Kulusevski return through the middle here with James Maddison dropping to the bench. And I think the reason why I say James Maddison dropping to the bench is, you know, he had that great game against Man City on his birthday, but against Roma came off the bench, didn't do an awful lot. And to be quite honest, against Fulham, didn't do an awful lot. Don't get me wrong, I think he was good in terms of set pieces on the day, but gave away a lot of possession and didn't really turn over much possession outside of that. And look, Postecoglou hauled him off early. And to be honest, James Maddison doesn't have the excuses maybe some of the other players like Porro or Dozie of being overused, leggy, fatigued, etc. Because, you know, he has found himself in and out of the team quite a lot this season. And that's purely down to the inconsistent performances. And away from home, I think you really need a combative midfield. And I know against Man City that was there. But I just think against Bournemouth, you're going to have to go with pure physicality in there. And on that reason, I think James Maddison, for me, misses out. And look, Kulusevski was a surprising omission from the starting 11 at the weekend. Let's be brutally honest, he was rested specifically for this trip to Bournemouth, which suggests Postecoglou was actually counting on Kulusevski to be able to deliver a significant impact in today's game. His physicality, his ball carrying ability, his creativity and overall combative nature was sorely missed against Fulham. So I would be absolutely delighted to see him back in the starting lineup, just because he can get on the ball, travel 40 yards with it unchallenged, shrugging off players and really drive Spurs at the opposition. And not only that, he's turned over the most ball in the opposition third than any other Premier League player, so he works harder than anybody else. So in both sides of the game, he was sorely missed, and he really needs to step up and deliver here. Now, moving into the forward line, and we will start at left wing, and it will be Captain Son. Now, there's been a lot made about Son's age, you know, his performances of late, his impact on games, you know, with some people going as far as saying, is he washed up, is he over the hill, etc. Look, if you think there's credence to that argument, fair enough. But with the talent he possesses, he simply drags other people towards him, which actually creates inadvertently space for other players to operate in. However, my feeling on the situation when it comes to Son is actually I think there's just no one on his level in and around him in this team that is on the same wavelength as him. And I think it's really affecting him, as we've seen since Harry Kane's departure. Now, of course, we have to move on without Harry Kane. But I do think he is struggling with that partnership. Now we're often getting the ball straight into Sonny, looking for him to be that focal point and that creator as well as a chief finisher. Whereas when we had Harry Kane in the lineup, we popped the ball into him. He done all the rough and running off him, and that's where we could put him in behind in on goals, and he finished with devastating effect. And of course, did miss 2 huge chances against Fulham, which on another day if he took, it could have been a different game altogether. We're 2-0 up in very quick succession off the back of their mistakes, which demoralises them. So he does have to do better. But I do think he is missing someone like Harry Kane, and now that everything has to come through him, he really does need help across this forward line, which is probably why Postecoglou has suggested he wants improvements in that area over the next few transfer windows. Now, heading on to right wing, and it is the guy, the club's top scorer right now, which is why I don't think you can leave him out. It is Brennan Johnson, who scored yet again and Tottenham's only goal in the game against Fulham at the weekend. However, his overall contributions have left much to be desired, sparking debate amongst Spurs fans. Now, in my view, a winger, not only does he need to score goals, but also assist and work hard defensively, tracking back out of possession. And Johnson, for me, only meets one of those criteria. And Ange has called him out the last 2 games while standing on the sideline, clearly unimpressed with him. So he will have to be much better here. And it's not going to be an easy game for him, by the way. He's up against the Hungarian Milos Kerkez, who has been one of Bournemouth's standout performances this season. So it's not going to be easy. However, Johnson has scored in 4 consecutive games. Could he go on another run where he could be talking about 7, or could he break that streak? Let's see if he can offer that. And at the end of the day, at least he's offering something. It's better offering something than nothing at all. But I maintain he's a great goal scorer, but a winger needs to do more than just that, and I hope Johnson realises that going forward, because he could be so much more effective player and a much more well-rounded player. You know, people talk about him being the next Gareth Bale, but Gareth Bale, not only did he score goals, he's assisted goals, take on players, etc., etc. So if that's who Johnson wants to emulate, he needs to realise that very, very quickly. And then that brings me up to the guy up front. And Postecoglou did expect him to train yesterday, and it is the guy who missed the Fulham game because of illness, and boy did we badly miss him. We missed his physical presence, his ability to be able to hold up the ball and get Tottenham up the pitch, but not only that, out of possession, his unrelentless, unselfish work rate, constantly pressing the back line. Nobody else, not Werner, Johnson or Son, wanted to take on that mantle. They weren't hungry enough, or they didn't want to sacrifice themselves for the team. Whereas Dom Solanke does it absolutely routinely, regardless the amount of minutes he has in his legs, and he was badly missed. So I'm absolutely delighted to have him back in this game. And hopefully with his presence, along with Kulusevski's, they can help drag Tottenham up the other end of the pitch and play it in Bournemouth's half, despite maybe us being fatigued. Because if the game's being played in our half, we are in massive, massive trouble. So Dom Solanke will help counter that and help get us up the pitch and play in their half. And he does return against his former club, so a super exciting day for Dom Solanke. I do hope that he can come out here, show a really commanding performance, score a couple of goals, you know, maybe lay 1 or 2 off as well, and show Bournemouth fans that he made the right move. Because right now, Bournemouth sitting 13, 2 points behind us. If they win, all of a sudden they're mocking Dom Solanke, you know, saying he didn't take the right move, etc. Them songs will all come out at the end of the game. So if we're going to do it for anybody today, let's do it for Dominic Solanke, who I think we deserve to reward because of the work that he does for this Tottenham team. So guys, that is my predicted lineup. Please give me yours in the comment section below. I know a lot of people might not agree with what I have to say, so feel free, let me know in the comments what you disagree with. Let me know in the comments what you do agree with. But also give me yours and the reasons why you've picked them, along with your score prediction and how you're feeling ahead of today's game. I'll see you back here for the pre-match build-up starting at 5:15 this evening. As always, come on, you Spurs. In the big Ange I still trust. We never stop, baby. Let's go.